Police officers who arrested other police officers. What's your story? I'd been a patrol officer for 8 years when the call came through about a drunk driver swerving all over Main Street around 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. Just another routine DUI call, or so I thought. I responded thinking it would be some college kid or maybe a middle-aged guy who had too many at the bar watching the game. When I pulled the silver sedan over near the Walmart parking lot, my heart sank into my stomach. Behind the wheel sat Sergeant Miller, the guy everyone at our precinct looked up to like he was some kind of hero cop. This was the same man who mentored me when I was a scared rookie 8 years ago, taught me how to write reports that wouldn't get thrown out in court, and even covered my overnight shift when my wife Kelly went into labor with our first kid. Miller stumbled out of the car before I even got to his window. His eyes were bloodshot and glassy, and the smell of whiskey hit me like walking into a wall. He was swaying back and forth, trying to focus on my face. "Hey buddy," he slurred, "just had a couple drinks with the boys. You know how it is." At first I thought maybe I could handle this quietly. Drive him home, let him sleep it off, no paperwork, no drama. That's what any decent partner would do, right? Miller had done so much for me and my family. He even helped me study for my sergeant exam last year. But then I walked around to check his car for damage, and that's when I saw it. The back bumper was completely smashed in. Fresh scratches and dents covered the rear end. Glass fragments were scattered across his back seat. This wasn't just a drunk driving stop anymore. "Miller," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "what happened to your car?" He looked confused, like he was seeing the damage for the first time. "I don't know, man. Maybe someone hit me in the parking lot at O'Malley's." That's when I noticed the family minivan parked on the shoulder about 50 yards back. I hadn't seen it when I first pulled Miller over because I was focused on getting him safely stopped. I told Miller to stay put and walked over to check on them. Inside the van was a young mom, maybe early 30s, holding her neck with one hand and trying to comfort two little kids in the back seat. The boy looked about 6, crying and asking if mommy was okay. The little girl, probably 4, had a cut on her forehead from glass fragments. "Are you hurt?" I asked the mom through her rolled-down window. "I think so," she said, wincing. "He rear-ended us at the red light on 5th Street, then just drove off. I followed him here to get his license plate number." My stomach dropped. Miller hadn't just been driving drunk. He'd hit a family with kids and fled the scene. The mom, who later told me her name was Lisa, said her neck was hurting bad and her daughter might need stitches. I called for an ambulance and another patrol car, then walked back to Miller. He was leaning against his car, looking like he might pass out. "Did you hit that van back there?" I asked him directly. Miller looked at me with this desperate expression. "Come on, Jake. You know me. I've been looking out for you since day one. Can't we work something out here? Tell me what happened, Sarge. Look, I may have bumped into someone at a light, but I didn't know anyone was hurt. I thought it was just a little fender bender, but the damage told a different story. The impact had been hard enough to shatter his rear window and deploy the van's airbags. There was no way he didn't know what he'd done." The ambulance arrived and started treating the mom and kids. The little girl needed 5 stitches above her eye. The mom had whiplash and would be in pain for weeks. Miller kept looking at me, pleading with his eyes. "Please," he whispered when the other officer arrived. "Think about my career. Think about my pension. I've got 2 kids in college." That hit me hard because Miller had helped me fill out the paperwork when I applied for tuition assistance for my own kids. But then, I looked over at that little girl getting stitches in the back of the ambulance and her brother still crying for his mom. I realized that if I let Miller walk away from this, those kids' lives would mean nothing. Their pain would mean nothing. The trust their family had in police officers to protect them would mean nothing. So I made the hardest decision of my career. I pulled out my handcuffs. "Sergeant Miller, you're under arrest for driving under the influence and leaving the scene of an accident." He looked shocked, like he couldn't believe I was actually doing it. As I cuffed him and read him his rights, he kept saying, "Jake, please, you're making a huge mistake. This will ruin everything." Miller was suspended without pay the next day. He lost his pension, his career, everything he'd worked for over 20 years. He got 18 months in prison and 5 years probation.